All right. Welcome to the Market Smarter, Sell More podcast presented by the Hayes Group. I am your host, Andy Barnett, joined as always by my co-host, the man who puts Hayes in Hayes Group, the director of directoring.
I like directoring. That's awesome.
I like that. Yeah.
That's the new title.
That's the new title,
Yes.
Director of Directoring, Mr. Hayes.
Welcome to the vidcast.
That's right. Welcome to the vidcast.
So what's up today, man? How you?
I'm doing good. Doing good. I'm waiting for this weather to turn around and get a little bit nicer outside.
Feeling good, Lewis?
Yeah, feeling good. Looking good, Ralph.
Looking
Or
good.
what's the guy's name?
Feeling good, Art.
Art. That's it.
Looking
I
good,
knew it wasn't
Lewis.
Ralph.
Feeling good, Art.
Feeling good, Art. That's right. You watch any good new shows lately?
Gosh, no, I haven't. I've been watching a series that a buddy of mine shared with me called Northern Exposure. You know, back in the
day,
way back in the day.
Yeah, it's got a lot of big actors in it.
So prior to this year, there was no streaming service that actually had Northern Exposure on it.
What's it on now?
It's on Amazon, but you have to buy it, so it's not free.
Oh.
So I bought the first couple of seasons, and I'm enjoying it. I mean, it's one of those shows. It's super easy to watch.
Yeah, right.
It's got all the likely characters.
Exactly. It's not too heavy. Like you're just like,
Yeah.
look, I just want to watch something and not have to think about it too much.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a much easier way to do it. I find it's so hard to, and I've done it. Don't get me wrong. I've done it to pay for anything on these streaming. We have a billion free shows from everything from Zubi to Tubi to,
I get
there's
it.
so many free options.
Crackle.
Yeah, exactly. and if I pay for something, my wife's like, what are you doing?
Yes.
Like, are you kidding? I mean, we still have regular cable and have all those channels too. Like,
Oh my gosh.
what are we doing? Well, you have to have, if you're already paying for HBO, then, the app's free. Then, you don't have to pay for extra in any of those. So I tried to do the math before. Cutting the cable won't work for me. I watch too many sports.
Well, I mean, cutting the cable is more expensive than cable.
Yeah.
And now, right, with all these services.
Yeah, because you got to get each individual service.
Yeah,
and,
I think, the two, probably a couple of the most popular out there is Fubo, right? That's minimum plans, $75 a month plus their tax and everything. It's 90 something. And then YouTube TV, and it's also starts at like 75, and with taxes and their local service fees and all that stuff, it's $90.
Right. So it's like, I don't know that I'm really saving anything anymore.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, I guess the only other option, since we're sports fans, you're familiar with this, when the NFL games are on Sunday, if you don't have local TV through a cable or, streaming service subscription, your only option is to, hack it with a Reddit link, or a streaming service.
I thought you were going to say go down to the local bar, but you're right.
Go to the bar where you're locked into, $6 beers.
I was going to say, I wasn't going to admit it. I was definitely going to hack it, but I thought for the sake of a podcast, we would just say, we're going to go to a local establishment.
We're not the only ones. I know we're not.
That's right.
We like sports. Or, the other option is you get over the air antenna, which stinks.
Oh,
right?
It's horrible.
Yeah. It's never a good picture.
Just like watching when I would watch IU basketball games back in the late 80s, early 90s. It was like, when you see video of that, you're like, you can't even tell who the players were.
Right.
You
couldn't even see that Bob threw a chair.
Yes, right. That's right. But you didn't know what you're missing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You didn't know how clear quality and how amazing it is. What the at-home experience now is just off the charts. All right, we are going to jump in to our segment that remains to be named at a later date. That used to be called the artist formerly known as Ask the Expert. And then afterwards, we are going to bring on a guest. We got an exciting guest for you today. But let's start with something that I've heard you mention many times in meetings before. And I know what it means, but I think for our listeners, you refer to the phrase as, maybe it's a business or whatever the case is, a beautiful billboard at the end of a dead end road.
Mm-hmm.
Explain a little bit for the listeners what you mean by that, what that term is, and how it relates to kind of what we do.
I think the overarching thing, if you put it in the context of marketing, what is marketing supposed to do, right? You're supposed to have a good message and get it in front of the right people at the right time. And that's really what the objective is. Sounds super simple. But what we see happening, with the people coming in, generally speaking, is that they might have a really good looking website or really good looking marketing pieces, but they haven't figured out yet how to get it in front of the right people at the right time and where those people are hanging out. So they may not have identified their ideal, client profile and, putting that message in front of them at the right place and the right time. And so that's what I mean by it, which is, hey, if you've got this beautiful website or these beautiful marketing pieces and nobody sees it, does it have any value? No, it's like a billboard at a dead end road.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And it makes perfect sense. And I think it's such a great, I don't know if that's I don't know the appropriate English language terminology for what that is. Is that an alliteration or No, I like that phrase, like a beautiful billboard at the end of a dead end road. I don't know.
It's something. Hey, we'll figure it out later.
English, yeah.
Next episode, maybe we'll report back.
Remember we were talking about that? Yeah. I don't know. I think it might be an alliteration.
Because I think
the people that do know are screaming at us right now.
Like shut up, idiots.
You are idiots.
You might know marketing, but you don't know anything about grammar.
That's right.
Forget the English language. Because I always thought an alliteration was like it had to be the same letter, like BBB, like better business because I thought that was an alliteration.
That could very well be the case.
I might be wrong. I don't know. Maybe that's an onomatopoeia or whatever that is.
That's right. Onomatopoeia and horse she rode in on. That's right. So, yeah. Anyways, I think it's a great.
Anyway, we don't do grammar, but our copywriters do. I promise you that.
They're really good, and we do marketing great, but English language not so much. But no, I think it's a great explanation for people that it really is exactly what it sounds like. You like you said, you can have the prettiest website with all the bells and whistles, but if nobody's seeing it, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
At least it's pretty, I guess. It's a nice little beautiful billboard that no one will ever see because it's the end of a dead end road. So,
yep.
All right. Well, there you go. That is our segment that is not called Ask the Expert. So we will be back with our guest after this.
Later.
Midwest business funding. Owning or starting a business can be challenging enough without having to worry about cash flow and funding challenges. At Midwest Business Funding, these folks are incredible at getting businesses the funding needed to take that next step or compensate for an unexpected lull in cash flow. Whether you need equipment financing or you're ready to expand with real estate lending, they match you up with the right solutions for your business. They also offer invoice factoring and quick capital loans so you can mitigate risk and get the funding you need. Reach out today and talk to the helpful folks at Midwest Business Funding. Okay, now we're on. All right. Welcome back to the Market Smarter, Sell More podcast. We're now joined by our guest, Bob Paden, with the growth coach of North Indianapolis. Did I get that right?
Well done.
All right, Bob, why don't you tell us a little bit about, well, you know what? First, before we jump into stuff, we have to thank Bob for coming back a second time.
Yeah.
He actually was our very first guest, and we completely biffed the audio and messed it all up. He had a great episode. We messed up the audio, so he was kind enough to come back and join us. We appreciate that, Bob. So
it's a good time had by all.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. But we do have the audio going this time, so we're good. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
You bet. The usual question, right? So simple answers, collaboration with business owners and their leadership teams to achieve the goals that the owner wants for the business.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line. That takes a lot of shapes and forms. Sometimes it's one-on-one exec coaching with the owner themselves or their leadership team, either one-on-one or as a group. And then it also sometimes then veers into what I would call extraneous things. And I call marketing as a good example, right? Every owner has weaknesses. Every business has weaknesses, and we try and identify those and bolster up those weaknesses and then double down on the strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So we start with that upfront assessment of the whole business from every function, kind of every angle, even what I call the basic business engine that we may talk about today, but literally what drives profitability or what doesn't drive profitability and get to that net.
Mm-hmm.
And then set a plan in place for them so that they have a plan for them as an owner for what they want the business to do for them.
Sure.
And again, that can look different at the end, right? It could be exit, could be sale, could be transfer, could be ESOP, could be whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Give it to my kids or whatever. So knowing what that end plan is for each of those owners, and sometimes it's partners, right? And trying to navigate that as well. that will dictate the plan they put in place. And so that's where we spend our time. So that's what I do.
So there's a lot of coaches in the marketplace.
There is.
So I've noticed there's quite a difference in your approach to several others in the marketplace. Can you talk a little bit about what makes your approach unique?
Yeah, and I like the word collaborative, right? You got one up here, right? Whiteboard. I love whiteboards. I'm not a stand up in front of you all the time and preach to you. So it's very much this style, very conversational, very real and gritty. I don't mind getting my hands dirty. I love pouring. I call it one of the things I do typically up front is pull their P&Ls. And hint, if I ask you for P&L and you can't produce it, hint number one, right?
Right.
So it's a matter of, do they have a grasp on what's happening in the business financially? And we'll start there. That's one of the obviously big key components is what is the numbers telling the owner? And sometimes they know, sometimes they don't. And so in terms of difference, it's maybe a more comprehensive assessment.
Yeah.
But really there from the plan standpoint, it's a little bit of an iterative process. It is not, I'm going to shove you through a sausage machine. Every client I have is different and I approach them different. So I'm not, 6 steps to greatness or whatever, right?
Right. Well,
I don't find that works because if their biggest challenge is step 5, why would I wait 6 months to talk about step 5, right?
So, well, people are unique and you should approach them uniquely, and they all have different strengths and weaknesses. And it's obviously your job. You're finding and identifying those things and
correct,
and coaching them on how they can improve those things.
And and sometimes big thing is mindset of the owner themselves. Are they really thinking as an owner? You know how this goes. You may have even felt that in early days of when you start a business, the business, the thing, whatever that thing is. Plumbers, I'll just pick a plumber, right?
Yeah.
They know plumbing. They get tired of working for the man. They go work their own business, start their own business. The next thing they know, they got 10 guys, 10 trucks, and a whole lot of, accounts receivable and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden they have to market. They have to do all this other stuff. And that's not plumbing.
Yeah.
And so I joke, I think it may still be on my LinkedIn, is they know the business, but they don't know the business.
Yeah.
And so that's that sweet spot where they've kind of been around long enough to have some scars. I don't focus on startups as an example because they don't kind of play by the rules anyway.
Yeah. Right.
We'll see what happens the next 5 years. Money's kind of dried up, but if they've been around and, I call it, 5 to 15, 20, 25 employees in that space where they've got to a certain heft, but yet they want more. And that's kind of where I come in. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, what drove you to, if you give a little, brief synopsis on your background, what drove you to, to want to do this?
Yeah. How long do you have?
Hey, we can cut it. You can talk all night. We'll just cut it.
I'll shorten it up as fast as I can. I was a long-time corporate guy, right? So a lot of us came from the corporate world. The good part of it, I'll start with the bad part. The bad part is it's a corporate mess and the bureaucracy, right, and all those kind of things. What I did learn, though, was how to develop and lead teams and to achieve really big goals with what I would call sometimes maybe not even the quote unquote the best people. In a corporate space, sometimes you just have to go with what you have. And I always joke that there's probably 2 or 3 times in that 20 plus years that I had an island of misfit toys, right?
Sure.
Sometimes you grab people that, they may be heading out the door, right? But I need a body and we need to get certain things done. So I learned to adapt a lot. I learned how to read people. I learned how to motivate people. I learned how to get people to get along with each other to the extent possible, but then to achieve an actual goal that was, people would say, "Oh, you're never going to get that done," which I love those.
Yeah. Challenge accepted.
I'll show you.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah. So, and so that background provides a lot of material, if you want to call it that, an experience that does apply to small businesses. Sometimes a small business, you've never worked in a small, yes, but I don't want you to be small forever.
Yeah.
But I also know what too much bureaucracy is, right? I know what it means to have a manual that's this thick and it's telling you what time to go to the bathroom. Not helpful, right? So I learned over time, what the balance was. And then even in the second half of the corporate space, I worked with a lot of small suppliers in my case. And I learned, one, these people worked extremely hard. I mean, just salt of the earth, grinding it out, making it happen. And I always felt that, one, we as a corporate entity, whichever one I worked for, almost put them at a disadvantage. And it really irritated me, to be frank.
Yeah,
sure. And so over time, when I exited out of the corporate space, I really do have a heart for a smaller or medium-sized business and I call them kind of the forgotten businesses, right? You drive by them every day, nobody thinks about them.
Sure.
Right? But they're doing it. And it just became a passion. But I ran my own contracting business, engineering and supply chain work for a long time. And I know it's not easy. I mean, I had 20 plus subcontractors working for me at one point, engineering and supply chain things. And to keep track of just that alone, wow.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a big freaking deal.
Right.
Payroll, accounts receivable, accounts payable, all those kind of things. Just the simple things that, business owners take for granted and do that most bigger entities don't even think about, right? They've grown to a size they don't have to worry about. They got a payroll department.
Right. Yeah.
When you're the payroll department, right? That's the way it works. And so during that process, and this was probably 2017 and 18, I really got tired, honestly, of the operational day-to-day things. I've been there, done that. And I got more joy out of what I call the conversations after 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I would get pulled into an office. I'd get pulled into a bar,
Mhm.
whatever bar stool.
Yeah.
Say, sit here and I don't need to talk to you.
Uh-huh.
And we would talk about people problems, leadership problems, financial problems, and all those kind of things. And I found I really enjoyed those conversations way more than the daytime.
Sure.
And so circumstances, the way it happened, all that through 17 and 18, coaching kind of became the prime on my own. And then I bought the franchise in the middle of 19. Been doing that ever since. So,
what do you wish you knew? What do you wish you knew now that you didn't know then?
from a business owner standpoint, for my own,
like when you started doing that, what would you do differently if you had the opportunity to do it all again?
Let's just say that you were restarting right now.
Right now,
yeah,
I would have surrounded myself with really good people really fast.
Yeah,
just partners. Just we have this, right? I mean, we talk all the time.
Yeah,
I didn't do that at the beginning because it seems antithetical, right? I'm starting a business.
Yeah, I'm
going to do it on my own. I'm going to prove them wrong. Right? All those kind of things, and it's that good energy is great, but all of a sudden you find yourself by yourself.
Sure.
And I would definitely change that up front.
Yeah.
It's like literally, I mean, I can't do this. And I've learned over time, I'll call it humbles you when right, stuff happens.
Yes.
Right. And then you need those people and they need you. Same way. We all have dips and it's the roller coaster type of thing. And when you hit that bottom, it would be really nice if you had a group of people around you that can just pull you up by your bootstraps and right, your belt.
Exactly. And give you encouragement and help you forward.
Correct. Yeah. But then also call you out for stupidity.
Yes.
Right? We all make dumb things.
Sure.
Right? Why in the world did you do that?
Yeah. Right.
And don't let me do it again.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's probably what I would change the most up front. So.
All right, let's jump over to personal stuff.
All right. Great.
So it sounds like he's got an answer now to the question he didn't have before.
I do.
So
okay.
Yeah.
What
really thought about
the theme song, right?
Yes.
Or soundtrack is.
Yeah. So Bob and I talked about this earlier. So I'm kind of cheating. I'm going to ask a leading question.
All right.
Yeah. Lead right into it.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you had to pick one song that kind of defined you, what would that be?
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that was the question. That's right. It still applies. Right. It's Foo Fighters, my hero.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was looking through literally, what do I listen to? Because I drive to Purdue and back. And so I got an hour each way.
Sure.
And so I do a lot of podcasts and I'm listening to music. And that was one that was in the top 5. And I like I looked up actually the genesis of the lyrics. And a lot of people said it was about Kurt Cobain or something, et cetera. And it's Dave Grohl. Yeah. He said, no, that's not really what it is. It's really about what I call the ordinary man. Right. I'm an ordinary guy. I'm not, there's a lot of people and, Adam and I've talked about this in the past that, when you look at the landscape of business owners and business, there's, I'll call it people that they have the suit, the thing, right. And they're shiny and it's, kind of on the sexy end or whatever you want to call it. I'm not any of that. And so, but there's an entire group of people that kind of get ignored. And I, not in a bad way. It's just they're quiet. I'm an introvert. I don't always speak up, and I'm not in the limelight. Doing this is right in the light.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's people that are way more natural at that get more attention because they're more outgoing, if you want to call it that.
Sure.
I'm more introverted and more relationship based. And so, anything that talks about what I would call just the ordinary guy that's literally, lunch pail, I'll call it, right? Going to work, doing his thing, providing for his family. I do what I do because I want my family to have a good life and my wife to be happy.
Right. Exactly.
Yes,
That's always top of the list. That's why you do anything.
Usually is, right? And so when I drive around and I look and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, who owns that business? And does anybody know who they are?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. And so it really kind of speaks both to myself and then even kind of my client base in some ways.
Sure. Well, I don't know about you, but I consider myself in the sexy group.
Ooh.
Really? So
Just based off of my sheer sex appeal just oozing off of me at all times. I mean, I don't know. Other people, I might put myself in a different group and they'll be like, "No, you're definitely in the sexy group." So.
Yeah.
We may have to
It's a good category to be in.
Yeah, yeah.
You have good company.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right.
You enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I know what it's time for.
Oh.
It's time to spin the wheel.
It's time to spin the wheel.
That's true. I forgot that.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Let's spin the wheel.
Let's do it.
I love it. You jump into this earlier on me too.
I
love it. All right.
I mean, your finger was itching over there. I saw
it was. I know. I can't help myself. I got to get to it.
You can't contain yourself.
I even forget what it is. But I know
here it is.
It's important.
Prepare to be surprised then.
I'm not supposed to look this.
Okay. No, you can look.
We probably should have some fancy music here or something.
I know, we should.
There's a little celebration.
That's exactly right.
There's my hero.
Wow. I want to spin it. Oh.
Okay.
man.
Yes.
That's good.
Topic for Bob.
This is a great topic. See, there is music.
Yeah.
Guys, come on.
Uh-huh. I think our producer is probably going to complain that wasn't into the mic.
Yeah.
It was through the TV.
Exactly. That's true. It's true.
Okay, so that's a topic. What's the question?
Yeah. Well, your thoughts. Just riff on it. What do you think? Is it helpful to businesses? Is it harmful? Probably both.
Yeah, it's a little both. And you guys, know my general philosophy. I rarely do selfies as an example, right? And there are, again, people.
Your selfies are in the form of coffee cups.
I was going to say, every morning I look forward to my Bob post on LinkedIn of where you're at and what cup of coffee you've had.
And I'll tell you the genesis behind that is literally I noticed that other people were doing video, right? Video became big versus pictures. And so a lot of my coffees are not pictures, they're actually videos. And you see the wafting, all that stuff. But it was like, okay, I'm here. I do drink a lot of coffee and I meet a lot of people in coffee shops and other places, right? And I thought, and I'd sat with a coach and talked about what do I want people to know about me, right? What do I want them to really know about myself? And what's it like to interface with me? And I had a whole bunch of words and, authenticity and some other big words like that, right? But one of the words that kept popping up that I finally put on the whiteboard during the session was coffee. I said, that's probably a pretty good description of me.
Yeah.
It is the style. I'm a casual style. I'm not Mr. Formal, right? I can be when I need to be, but I'm also not foo-foo coffee.
Right.
Yeah.
I do add cream and sugar, but I mean, it's like it created this thing. And I said, well, I'll just start taking a picture or video of every time I'm somewhere and having coffee. And sometimes I'll mention who I'm with. I did that last week, right? This week. And sometimes I won't, which, I'm just trying to have fun with it, but it's not me. I'm not taking a picture of me. I find that just over, right?
Yeah.
It's too much.
That's self-promotion. Yeah.
Which, I know I probably should do that more, but I just wasn't comfortable with it. So, but I thought I do need to tell people what I'm doing, where I'm at.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've used it for. And this is probably 2 years in, right? And now I am known as the coffee guy. I've had so many people.
I enjoy it.
The coffee guy, right?
Yeah.
And there's a few of us. We've got, I call it, between the coffee itself and being at Rosie's, which, we get Rosie's, Noblesville, Carmel, and Zionsville, by the way.
This podcast is sponsored
by Rosie's,
it's
right? I haven't earned the the plaque on the bench yet. But
It's coming.
it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
I'm
Yeah.
going to earn it.
100 more coffees.
But there's a few of us that have the friendly banter, which in
Uh-huh.
the social media world is actually a positive thing, right? It's just exposure,
Mhm.
and that's fine. And so I like that it's not in your face.
Uh-huh.
And if you want to have fun with it, it's good. And otherwise, it just tells people that I'm out and about. Now they probably go, "My God, do you have a lot of meetings at coffee
Do you
shops?"
get anything done besides drink coffee, Bob?
I've had that
Yeah.
question asked, and the answer is yes, because it's not every day. It may seem like it,
Yeah.
which is good. So I don't know. It just became a thing, and I
Mhm.
just stuck with it. And I think it fits kind of my style. So
Well,
Yeah.
what do you think the negatives of as far as social media? I
Oh,
think we
it's
could
like
probably
it
all
just sucks
immediately.
up time,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you can get lost,
Yeah.
right? I mean, everybody does it. All of a sudden, you're on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever.
Like, how'd I get here?
2 hours later,
Yeah.
And it's like everything else. The positive can become a negative, and then you and I even talked about one this morning
Mhm.
or this afternoon
Yes.
about how people do it sometimes. I just find it not distasteful. It's not the right word, but just gross. I mean, it's like, come on,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
They're
right.
not being real,
Right.
Or
It-
transparent.
well, yeah.
right? And
Lack of authenticity.
Yeah.
One of the
correct.
neatest psychological images that I've seen on social media was if you imagine a mirror,
Yes,
and in the reflection of the mirror is a perfect apple,
yes,
but from the perspective of sitting back here, there's a bite out of the apple.
yes,
I was like, that's the perfect
yes. 'Cause you
analogy
can't see it.
for social media. Is
Right.
You're only seeing what people want you to see.
Absolutely,
Not,
not the good stuff.
exactly.
right.
It's very rare, right? Someone will be so authentic and every once in a while you'll see them.
Yeah.
But then I also go, well, that goes out like that. Everybody,
Yes.
Mhm.
is that even necessary? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Because then it's like, okay, that was interesting, but now you're dumping your emotional baggage on other people,
everybody,
right?
correct.
Yeah.
So it's
And
kinda
then the
like,
opposite
what was the
problem
movie
of
with Jim Carrey?
everything looks perfect, and then now everybody is like, well, if they're authentic and they're that perfect, look at me. I've got this gap between
Correct.
where they are and where I
Which
am,
is
and
total
now I'm
BS,
feeling
right?
inadequate, right?
So I mean, I tell anytime I'm talking to groups of people, I talked to a group of Purdue students last night. Everybody has bags of poo. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody. And
Uh-huh.
if you pretend you don't, I find that disingenuous.
Yes.
Right. It's just everybody's got it.
Right.
Imposter syndrome or what? I mean, anything
Uh-huh.
you can think of. Everybody's got stuff.
Mhm.
So why don't we just talk about it and deal with it and help each other,
Right.
and quit trying to be so pretty. I'll call
Yes.
it.
Right, yeah, yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. Well, you guys hit two words, the inauthentic and disingenuous are
Yeah.
both. That's my big take on it. I think it can be very helpful in many
Yeah,
different
sure.
forms. But on the flip side of that, I mean, we're connected with people we knew in elementary school. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
You would have never known what's going on in their lives. And it's cool to see their lives and their families and
Yes.
what they've done and the places they've been. That's all cool. But when you're watching the video of the person who's saying, here's what I did today, and they're showing all the steps. Well, who set up the camera?
I ate Chinese food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
congrats.
That's cool. Great. That's
But
yeah.
maybe maybe I'm doing the same thing and I don't know it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, I think there's intent behind it too, and then there's also frequency.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't need to be every 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. It just doesn't.
Yes.
And then you get into voyeurism almost. And
Yeah.
I'm just not interested.
Yeah.
much.
You're just kind of
Yeah.
watching people from the outside. How about you just live your life? You know what I
How
mean?
about we
That's-
get together and have a cup of coffee and talk to each
Yeah.
other?
Yeah, right.
Look at each other. Have a
Yeah.
conversation.
right.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And then you wonder how much of social media happens from the bathroom.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, is it
Good
80%? That's probably it.
It could be. Yeah. It could
Yeah.
be. If you're counting my kids, they're in
Yeah.
there 45 minutes apiece. And,
So- Talk about bags of poo.
Yeah.
that's right.
That's real stuff there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but in the end, is it a necessary evil? Maybe, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I would never tell a business not to be on social media,
Exactly.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
how else would you ever get that much exposure?
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit of time and money.
Yep.
Maybe more money, right? But I mean, you got to do it right, and you got to do it that fits with what you want, not what everybody else is doing. And I don't like chasing the Joneses. I'll call it.
Mhm.
It's just
Sure.
not productive. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had a friend, I won't say any names, who I mentioned something about keeping up with the Joneses. And he mentioned, like, man, you don't have to do that. You don't have to try to keep. And I said, that's because you are the Joneses, dude. You are the Joneses.
Did he look at you like, oh my God, you're right?
That's the beauty of him. I love the guy. He has no idea he's the Joneses.
Yeah.
And
Did he have the self-realization, though, that, oh my God,
I don't
right?
think so. I think he's just
Seriously?
drifted through life and everything's just kind of gone his way. And that's awesome. Good for him. That's great. He's very authentic and he just a little oblivious to the fact that, you've always been the Joneses, and good for you, man.
Right.
Like, great. Good job. So
trust funds are great.
That's right. Oh, yeah. So, hey, before we jump out of here, first of all, thanks again for joining us. It's been awesome. And you're obviously going to be back with us several more times. So
I've got a couple questions, and Bob and I are probably going to host a few shows together.
Great. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And I want to make sure he's able to plug, where can people find you other than drinking coffee all over town?
Where can they Zionsville, booth number 27.
Yeah. And we'll put them on the screen too. We'll make sure that people have your address. But if you want to, you're on all the social platforms.
If you type in the Growth Coach, even Indianapolis, North Indianapolis, it'll pop up in Google, right?
Awesome.
LinkedIn, it's Robert Paden, I think, just to keep the spammers off. But yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is pretty much where I maybe have a Facebook page. I can't remember. I gave up Twitter. Those kind of things. Yeah. So it's literally just type in Bob Paden, the Growth Coach.
Okay.
You'll find it on Google.
One last question for you. What are the top 3 things that should jog people's memories to think of calling you?
Oh, man. Great question. Wow. Wasn't expecting that one.
We got him again.
I call him maybe one, definitely, and it may cover a few, is what I call inflection points or transition points. Typically, the businesses that I work with and the owners I work with reach a certain point and kind of either they get stuck. That's kind of I haven't decided whether I like that word yet or not, but maybe it is. Or they reach a really point in their business lifespan that says, okay, this what I did in the past isn't probably going to work in the future. Typically, that is, and as an example, when, let's just say you had 3 people start a business like us right here. We started a business. We're all around this table. We grew to 5. We're still around the table. All of a sudden, we got 6 or 7. The table gets crowded.
A little tight.
Now I got 10, and they can't fit around the table. That's a transition, right? And all of a sudden, we have another layer. And so sometimes that typically happens in the 10 employee space. And then when you get to a 20, and then maybe a 20 to a 50, and all of a sudden you have 3 layers and you hadn't even really thought about it. And so sometimes it is before that happens, right? They kind of come to the realization that, okay, this is good, right? It's growth, but with that growth comes some pain. And I jokingly call it adolescence. And that is exactly what it's like. If you're going to grow from 10 to 50, let's say, you will go through adolescence. There is no way to skip it. It'll be painful. There will be yelling, right? Your leadership, people will quit, etc. And you can minimize that damage by, working it up front, I'll call it, and having a good, robust plan and a good strategy.
Sure.
If you just let it happen, stuff will happen. Right. But they also maybe get to that 50 and they look back and go, oh, there were like 10 things we really messed up on.
Yeah.
And that's where the gaps start really being identified, right? We just went so fast and now we're here. Now I haven't looked at my P&L in 6 months. I know I have cash in the bank, but I don't, but I'm growing so fast. I may have to buy trucks, or I may have to buy a bulldozer. I may have whatever it is. Yeah. Right. And I don't even know if I can get a loan because I haven't talked to a banker. I haven't established a relationship. I don't know what my numbers are telling me. And so it's
I don't even know what I need to provide, right?
Correct. Or I found myself in a business that has 3 prongs, I'll call it 3 product lines or something like that. And why? They just do. And I don't know if any 3 are more profitable than the other. And what we typically find out is like one of those 3 is really sucking the wind out of the business.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
Doing it only because they have. And it's really then putting a strategy in place that says, are you going to fix that? Or are you going to drop it? Or are you going to do something else? And that's what I call those inflection points. So it's really kind of, that's it's probably, if that's 3 in 1, I'll call it.
Yeah.
But it kind of encompasses different situations. And sometimes that is leadership teams, got a great client right now that They've grown really fast, and they have a really young leadership team, and it became really obvious. And the struggle was getting that young leadership team to collaborate and actually talk to each other and work together to solve a problem versus coming to the boss for the answer.
Yeah.
And then it's not a slow process.
Yeah.
Right? It takes a lot of work because it's really hard to pin your fingers down on do these 6 steps and then magic it doesn't work that way. So we're 6 months in, got another 6 months, kind of a monthly session that we go through. And I put them through various exercises and all those kind of things, right? And situations where they literally have to work together and then figure out what it's like. And so every one of those is different, but they're typically what I'll call those inflection points for sure.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. We appreciate it.
Awesome.
I got
Thanks,
one question. We may leave this in. Yeah.
Okay.
So what percentage, I'm asking a leading question, what percentage of your work is people growth versus business growth?
Ooh. Probably 50-50.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty half and half. And it does change also in time, right? So we may start off with kind of the business side and then it develops into people, or we may start with people and then it develops into the business.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
I can
again,
see overlap there. You're going to have tons of overlap. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, in the end, numbers are numbers, and I don't prescribe to the everything is numbers.
Yeah.
But in the end, numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
And I forget, a football coach basically says
The tape never lies.
the tape never lies, and your track record never lies.
Yes.
And if you keep telling me when I look at your P&L and you're losing money every quarter, that we're right on the edge, right? We're almost there, but your numbers don't. Right?
You've been telling the same story. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And typically, I mean, if every once in a while I have an owner who really knows their numbers, but I would tell you 80% of the time they kind of know their bank account. What they don't know is what the numbers are telling them. And they haven't really spent time of all the people that would probably not think of it, right, would be, I want you to spend time with those numbers and I want you to tell me the story that it's telling you. And they really haven't sat and thought about it.
Yeah.
And it gets into really nitty gritty. I mean, things like, is every salesperson I have producing? Numbers, the P&L won't even tell you that, right? It's just, it tells you a top line.
Right. Yeah.
And so you have to dig one layer.
Dig into those.
layers
Yeah.
deeper. We talk about, I think it's Gazelle's, it's profit per X. What is the thing that's going to drive profit for your business? And if you can't figure what that one thing is, get a nut. I call it, that's where I call it the basic business engine. It is literally what is the one thing you have to produce profit with and produce at a rate every day, every month, every week. And if you don't know what that is, we can help you figure it out. Because if you don't, then you don't know what lever to pull, right, to make it happen. And so yeah, it's about 50-50. And then that leads, okay, once maybe we figure that out, now do you have the right people in place to make all that happen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Awesome. Good
Thanks,
question.
man.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
you coming
Thanks for having
back.
me.
Appreciate it.
Anytime.
We'll see you again.
Well, anytime. All right, let's get started. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Welcome back, Bob.
7.